Welcome to the Counselling Tutor Podcast, the must-listen-to podcast for students of counselling and psychotherapy. Here are your hosts, Rory Lees-Oakes and Ken Kelly.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Counselling Tutor Podcast with me, Rory Lees-Oakes, and like myself, in full academic break mode is my partner and fellow broadcaster today, Mr. Ken Kelly. How are you, Ken?
Yeah, not bad at all. And of course, enjoying the academic break. But it also brings up a lot of stuff for me during academic break time. And I realized when I was doing my studies, I was still holding a full-time job and there was a lot going on. So, it can be considered that during academic break time, it is a time of rest. But I guess for some of you listening to this, it might be a really busy time for you and a time of confusion, thinking about what's going to be your next step, what's your progression from here, whether that be further studies, whether that be going out into practice. And that, Rory, is what today is all about.
It is. And, we always take great notice of our kind of fellow therapists who are posting in our Facebook page. And if you want to know where our Facebook page is, if you go to www.counsellingtutor.com, there's two L's in counselling. We spell it the UK English British way. If you go to the top right-hand side, you'll see Facebook. Click on it, and it's a closed group. Just knock on the door. We, of course, are going to let you in. And it's 9,000 fellow travellers in the world of counselling and psychotherapy, and they just inform us so much of what their hopes and what sometimes their fears are in the world of counselling. And one of the things that's come up right at the end of certainly this academic year is what level should I do? What course should I take? Should I do a level 5? Should I do a level 4? Should I do a degree? It's quite a lot of kind of angst where people are choosing, very importantly, because it costs a lot of money, which course they should go on to.
It is. And I guess courses and awarding bodies is something that we have certainly covered in previous episodes. And feel free to make your way through all the Counselling Tutor episodes. You'll find them right there on the website that Rory just mentioned. On the home page, there is a podcast tab. Click on that and you can look over all our back catalogue. I guess a strong recommendation is beware of the online courses, because there is a practical aspect and an aspect of counselling where you need to be assessed and seen to be doing what you're doing. And the online courses, it's a question that comes up again and again, are often not recognised by the awarding body. So if you do a lower level online and then go on to a college or a university, they may not recognise that lower level online course that you took.
Yeah, you may end up disappointed. And certainly, there's a few people who've posted saying that they have done level 4 online courses. And it's kind of one of the strange paradoxes here in the UK, where you can actually do an academic course online and find that when you get your qualification, it is of no use at all, because to practice really in the UK, you need to be a member of an ethical body, and unless you've done a minimum of 100 placement hours supervised, and it's a classroom-based course, then I'm afraid you can't join, and that can limit people's employment prospects quite dramatically. So just do your research, and of course we're always around to help you with that. Loads of helpful people in the Facebook page pointing the way to really good qualifications and progression routes.
Indeed. And of course, we recognise that maybe some of you will be moving away from study. Maybe you have got to a point in your studies where you feel you have enough and you're not maybe looking to become a practicing therapist. Maybe you just want to take the skills that you've learned so far and go and use them in your life, use them in your job. And to you, we wish you all the best in your road forward. There will be those of you who have finished your studies. You've finished your formal studies, and it's now about that next step. Where do we go from here? And of course, there's one thing that we need to have at the end of those formal studies, and that is that certificate, that recognition, that diploma, that whatever it is, to say, hey, you've made it. And of course, I also recognize that there might be people that may have received feedback from the external moderator saying you haven't quite made it, and we're referring you on certain questions. And I know that can be downheartening for some, but it is part of studies. And I think it's a high percentage, Rory, if I remember correctly, of actual externally marked assignments do get referred.
Yes, so we're talking specifically here, I think, about the ABC Centra Diploma in Counselling. Lots of counselling qualifications have, certainly at practice level, have different qualification thresholds. Some are done by exam, some are done by dissertation, that will be a degree, and some are done by an externally marked portfolio. So you do a portfolio of work through the year, and the moderator from the awarding body comes in, has a look at it, and passes it off. So that's your internal portfolio done. But on ABC courses, you send a body of work away. I think it's 12 written pieces of work, your counselling and your supervision logs, and those are marked externally. And then if those pass, then you've got your ABC diploma level 4 in therapeutic counselling, and the referral rates are quite high. I saw a post in the Facebook page that of 12 people who submitted, only 2 passed, Ken.
And I'm not surprised. And I think if you are maybe one of those people who has been referred, don't get too downhearted. This happens to a lot of people, and referral just means, hey, relook at this work and rejiggle what you've done on these specific questions and resubmit it. It is certainly not a failure. It just is an opportunity to relook at some of the questions. And I know, Rory, that when we were tutors together, we had learners that would maybe have areas referred, and you worked on trying to prevent that, I guess, and you created what you called the portfolio key, Rory. And I know that we've made that available, and it was sent out in a recent email, but just briefly go over what that is. And of course, we'll put a link in the show notes page. So if you are on ABC level 4, you've submitted your final portfolio, you've got some referred sections there, then you can maybe use Rory's key to have a look at that.
Yes. Well, what I did is I used to brief the externally marked portfolio. I used to call it at range. We used to start in about March or April time and do a little bit every week. And then at the end, people could combine the knowledge together and then produce that portfolio, and it got sent off. But I produced, as I say, a portfolio key. It's effectively 7 briefing documents that cover every one of the modules of the externally marked portfolio, 19 podcasts where I explain in detail, as I would if you were sat in my class and me briefing you, how and what the awarding body is looking for. And also I made a video, Ken. I made a video on Bloom's taxonomy.
Oh, yes.
Now, if anybody doesn't know what Bloom's taxonomy, Benjamin Bloom is the bane of students' life, because basically he developed what's called command verbs, and a verb is a doing word. So make a list is a doing word. And the idea is that as those verbs get higher up, you have to produce more thinking skills. So analyze something is harder work than list. And one of the things I saw, certainly in the 10 years I taught, that people struggled with analyse and evaluate. So I've done a video on that to try and best explain what analyse and evaluate is as it links to this externally marked portfolio.
So it's a large file, the external portfolio key, and it's called Rory's ABC portfolio key, and it is available through the Counselling Study resource. So if you are a CSR, Counselling Study resource member, it's already there for you. It's in your dashboard, but maybe you haven't joined up with the Counselling Study resource. Well, you can purchase access to that portfolio key, and of course the link to that is going to be in today's show notes. So that is kind of recognizing people who may be moving forward into a different level of study, maybe those coming to the end of their studies that may have a referral and what you may do about that. But of course we have those that come to the end of the studies, and it's now those next steps, Rory, and it's an exciting time going into practice, maybe working in an agency, maybe even going into your private practice. But there is an ethical requirement that as therapists that we do CPD, continuing professional development. And today is a special episode because we've got a special guest that's going to be going in depth into this. Can you tell us a little bit more about, Rory, what you discussed with John?
Yes, well, I spoke with John Wilson from Online Events, who is a fellow pioneer, I would say, in internet-based counselling training. And he runs an organisation along with his business partner, Saz, who produces continual professional development videos, interviewing luminaries in the world of counselling and psychotherapy. And as we'll hear in the interview, you can actually log your CPD in his website and then just download it if the BACP audit you. It's a fantastic idea, Ken.
It really is, and I know as well that you get access to the back library of all of the CPD lectures that have been done already, and that's really helpful if you're working with a client and they maybe come with a certain presentation and you want to know a little bit more about that. Your clients often inform what CPD work you might do, and you can jump into that library, have a look for that topic, and do a little bit of CPD related to the client work you're doing. So without any further ado, let's go straight into that interview you did, Rory, with John.
Hi, Rory. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm really, really well, and it's a great honour to be here with you and Ken on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the reasons we caught up was you do something quite unique in CPD. Counselling Tutor is all about online resources for students. But when someone becomes a qualified practitioner, where did he get the CPD from? And you can go to CPD conferences, you can do all that sort of thing, but you do yours online. So tell us a little bit about what you do, John.
Oh, well, it's great to have the opportunity to do that, Rory. Well, we offer CPD completely online. We usually do an hour where we'll have a conversation with a colleague. We call it an interview, but it's usually a kind of chat with me. Rory, you and I have done loads of these together, haven't we? Where you'll come along.
We have, John.
You'll bring a subject that's dear to your heart, and we'll kind of dig into that together in the hour, and that's viewable live on our website. So the colleagues could see you, they can see me on the video chatting away. And of course, if colleagues want to add a comment or a question, I always ask them to ask you a hard question, Rory.
You do.
And they usually do. So we have a lot of fun in that hour. Colleagues can come and watch that for free. There's no charge at all for that. And then the hour goes in our library, and we've got almost 500 hours of content.
Wow.
We've interviewed hundreds of practitioners, and there's a small charge for that, but that's people can catch up and dig into all kinds of content and subjects.
And you've had some, you've said that I've been on, and, I'm very grateful to be asked, to be honest, John, but you've had some real kind of pioneers in counselling and psychotherapy. I'm thinking of people like Mick Cooper. You've had people who've worked with Carl Rogers. You've had Peggy, whose name escapes me, Peggy...
Well, we've had, you're the main rock star, Rory. Let's not get away from that. But yes, we've done a bunch of stuff with Mick Cooper. We've had John McLeod along. I'm thinking about the kind of authors that students will be really familiar with. We've had Dave Mearns on, and Peggy Nattiello is a colleague I work with as a facilitator. Yeah. So she's come on. Colin Lego, Carol Walter Gustafsson, all experienced group facilitators who all work with Rogers.
Yeah,
which has been great. I did a group last year with Regina Stiamandis, and she came along and did an hour with us at online events, and she also had done some work with Rogers. So yeah, it feels exciting to have that connection, not with Carl Rogers himself, but with people who have carried his work on and are translating his work in a way that's contemporary. Feels exciting.
Absolutely. I'm always kind of knocked out, not just by the depth of CPD that you offer, the depth of the quality, but the span of it. You've got a lot of presentations and discussions and work with our friends in the TA community. And I know you hosted TA Mondays, wasn't it, John, or something like that?
TA Tuesdays. To get all the T's in a row, yes. So done a lot of work with TA colleagues. We've been at the TA annual conference here in the UK a few times and recorded some of the work there. So yeah, and I think the work at the humanistic end is really familiar to me as a person-centered practitioner, and TA translates really easily, or is a big part of the humanistic end of the continuum. And of course, we've done a little bit around CBT and stuff that's more psychodynamic, but I think that's something we could do a lot more of. So if anybody's listening to this would love to come and talk to us about CBT or any other modality.
Yeah.
we see ourselves as modality agnostic, Rory.
Modality agnostic, yeah, and that's true. And when I see your website, we'll put details into the Counselling Tutor Mother page. So if you don't know where that is, that's www.counsellingtutor.com. There's 2 L's in counselling. We spell it the English, UK, British way. And we'll put a link to your site in. But it's such a span. And the other thing that I really like, John, is you can get a CPD certificate, can't you? If you're in the library or a paid member, you can get a CPD certificate as well. Download it. I've done those. They're great.
Yes, that's right. Well, the colleagues seem to like that. And the thing that we've introduced in 2017 also is that when colleagues watch a video, there's a little space on the library page to record their learning, so they can type in some of the things that they really appreciated. And then at the end of the year, they've got a table with everything that they've watched, everything that they've learned. They can print that table out, and it looks really like the table that you would submit to the BACP for an audit. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that can be really helpful. You get to the end of the year, what have I done? What's the learning that I've done? I know I've done 30 hours, but what was it? Well, you don't need to do that with online events. Just get your learning in the little boxes, download it at the end of the year.
It's a full solution, isn't it? You can watch pick from a wide variety of disciplines, practitioners, ideas. You can watch the videos. You can then record your learning, and then you can download it. It's just like a one-stop shop for online CPD, isn't it?
Well, we really want it to be that, and I think it makes CPD really affordable for colleagues. I think if colleagues are really stuck, and I know that is the case for some colleagues because work is hard to come by, they can come along to the free events, the live events, and then there's no cost, and they can still do their learning. But I think the other bit that we want is to be a place where colleagues can come and be helped to choose the kind of the deeper learning that we want to do, because I think it doesn't replace the group work, the conferences, the books, but it can be hard to choose sometimes, Rory. Like which book am I going to buy? What conference am I going to go to? Whose training am I going to do? Whereas you can come along to an event, hear a colleague, not even pay anything, and think, yes, this is the person I need to learn from. They're the right person for me.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say, John, is basically it allows people to dip into something. Is that for me? Is that going to help my practice, my clients? Yes, it is. Then they can go on and maybe buy a book or maybe go on and see the presenter in person. But at the initial point of contact, it's free.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's great for colleagues who are putting work out into the world, because we want to talk with as many different people as we can. And then I think we can all come together, see what works, see who's the right person for us to learn with. And I think there's a lot of value in doing that, Rory. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And you mentioned earlier that certainly in the UK, we're now, as practitioners, required to do 30 hours of continuing professional development. And for members of the BACP or other ethical bodies, UKCP or the Counselling Society, we can get chosen. At the moment, it's like a lottery. Your name comes up, and then you have to submit your supervision hours and your CPD to prove that you are, a competent, ethical practitioner. So again, so useful that you have that kind of downloadable evidence from your site.
Yeah, it's a way of making those, recording what we've done and having that easily available. I think the other thing that is helpful for me, especially because I'm having the conversations, like I'm not a great reader. I can actually read. I do want to say that. But it's just, I find it really hard work. And so to do the reading, but also hear from the person who's done the writing or is having the thinking, that sticks much easier for me. And I know I hear from a lot of colleagues who have a similar process, and just to be in the dialogue, hear the conversation, I think that ideas can find a hook in us somewhere. And for me anyway, I find them easier to hold on to.
Yeah, well, I agree. I've been being interviewed by you on online events. You call me a rock star. It's very grateful.
It's true, Rory. I'm not telling any lies.
And I've seen some great presenters too. You know, I'm thinking of the supervision conference, the trauma conference, the supervision conference, which I contributed to a little while ago. Just fantastic people in there. And, you know, I would say that if you graduated and you're thinking, what am I going to do for my CPD? How's that going to form? Sometimes I think, John, it's really difficult. You're in a learning community. You're getting at your ideas sparked off each other. And then all of a sudden, you leave college and you're on your own, or you leave university and you're a single practitioner again. So to be part of a group, a learning group, again, I think is just so useful. I really do.
I think it makes a big difference. I see this with my own students at Temenos. You know, they graduate, that one moment that they've been waiting for, and then it's a panic. Like, where can I belong? I guess it can be a really big question, and to find a group of practitioners to feel at home with and to learn with can make a big difference. Well,
I couldn't agree with you more, John. And as someone who's appeared on online events, when we do work together and events together, I think we have a jolly good time.
It's always great fun, Rory, isn't it? Yes,
yeah,
it's great fun.
It's a bit of fun. So if you were listening to this and you're thinking, where am I going to get my CPD from? What am I going to do now that I'm qualified? I mean, congratulations, first and foremost, for being qualified, but the learning never stops. So go over and have a look at online events, and it's www.onlineevents, isn't it? The E is the single E, onlineevents.co.uk. We'll put a link in the website and have a look at the wonderful offering that John Wilson and your business partner.
Yes.
We mustn't forget your business partner.
I'll be in a lot of trouble if I don't mention Sandra. Of course, Sandra is the real genius behind online events. Takes care of everybody, makes sure everything is running smoothly, and makes all the work we do in front of the camera possible. Yeah. So yes, let's not forget Sandra's work.
No, but big hello to Sandra. She does a fantastic job across the Twitter sphere and the blogger sphere, and you know, she really does drive the momentum of online events, that, you know, the kind of social presence. So fantastic, John. Fantastic to catch up. And we'll speak to you again, I'm sure, John. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's great to be here. And we can't wait to have you back at online events, Rory.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm sure I can find something to talk about, John.
Well, there you have it. So much CPD there available for you, and really top-notch stuff. And I think you used the word, Rory, as we were going into this, luminaries in the counselling and therapeutic world. And I just have to acknowledge that you're in there as well, Rory. So I can now refer to you as Rory the Luminary.
Well, yeah, John referred to me as a rock and roll star. I'm not quite sure of that either. But I'll thank you for that, Ken. But yeah, it just kind of acknowledges for me the way that online training and training in general has moved onto the internet. And, you know, as we spoke earlier, there is some training that really needs a good look at, because you might be spending money and you might not be getting actually what's advertised. But John Wilson and Saz, his business partner, have produced just an outstanding resource for qualified therapists, or even students in training who just want to pick up on a few points. Well worth it. And I've delivered lectures for John. I went up to Edinburgh a couple of years ago for a conference, and him and his business partner Saz, they're just fantastic folks. So they really need supporting.
I think it's fantastic. It just makes sense if you are going out into practice to take advantage of that. And of course, we have the link for you, and that you can find in our show notes page. Really easy to find. You just go to counsellingtutor.com, click on the podcast tab, and just look for this special episode, CPD episode, and it's got the link right over there, and that will take you through to where you can do that CPD training, where you can sign up and become a member there. But I guess in closing today, because we have covered some ground looking at all the different routes of progression that may apply to you listening to this, I think I just want to wish you a great and restful summer. If you're studying in the UK, if you're external to the UK, you're elsewhere in the world and it's winter where you are, then wrap up warmly.
Yeah, and if you have graduated and you want to celebrate, there's no better place to celebrate than the Counselling Tutor Facebook page. Yeah. Put on your pictures wearing your hat or holding your certificate with a big cheesy grin. It's a big piece of work. It's a huge ask to study to be a counsellor. Both me and Ken know that because we both did it. And, celebrate, and rightly so, because it's a fantastic achievement. And, of course, it's one of those pieces of work where you're actually helping others, which is just fantastic, isn't it, Ken?
It is indeed. So have a great summer, have a great academic break, and we look forward to catching up with you in season 3 of the Counselling Tutor Podcast.
And hey, stay grounded and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the Counselling Tutor Podcast. Find the show notes for this episode on our website at www.counsellingtutor.com.